Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Anna Vanston, and I have been waiting for the Super Mario Bros. Movie trailer to drop. Super Mario Brothers, I'm saying bros. It tells us so much about what the plot could potentially be, and there were a surprising number of details that you might have missed, so let's jump into it, as certain plumbers are wont to do. So we open on an isolated little ice kingdom seemingly in the middle of nowhere. We'll come back to that. When suddenly a massive Bowser airship menacingly approaches, spewing lava onto the ice as it goes. The classic fire-ice contrast, reminiscent of the freezer flame galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy, and the war drums playing in the background tell us that something is about to go down. And we already know who has the upper hand when fire meets ice. When the ship gets closer to the kingdom, we get a better idea of exactly how huge this ship is. This airship is bigger than the entire city. That's a pretty nice upgrade from the clown car. Although like 95% of it is covered in lava, so not very space efficient decorating. This airship is similar to Bowser's ship in Paper Mario and even uses the same giant chain maces to dock, crushing pillars and demonstrating the huge imbalance of power in the process. On to the next part of the trailer.
The King of the Koopas!
We then cut to Kamek, famously Bowser's advisor and right-hand man, grandly announcing the arrival of the King of Koopas. He's flanked by a troop of Koopas, who yield spears and flags, which, as we know from the games, are the goal poles at the end of unbeaten levels. I wonder if they went with that design choice because the army itself is unbeaten. You get a glimpse of some paratroopers in the front and some red, green, blue, and potentially some other colored Koopas throughout the army. Now, there aren't too many differences between the colors of Koopas. Like in the games, the main difference between the red and the green Koopas are just their walking paths. When they come to a cliff, red Koopas will turn around and walk the other way, whereas green Koopas will just walk off the ledge. This ranking difference could be reflected in the movie, in which case I'm gonna guess maybe the red ones might be a little higher ranking. And that theory is demonstrated when we're shown a confident, seemingly bloodthirsty red Koopa and a fearful, shaking green Koopa standing next to each other. Speaking of, that red Koopa has an aesthetic eye patch, yeah, I said aesthetic, spiky shoulder pads, and maybe acne scarring that seems to indicate he might be a more prominent character in this flick. You can't give a Koopa acne scars and not have him at least have a line or two. It's also worth noting that the Koopa Troopas in the game always seem to have a loyal yet kind of doofy, unprofessional vibe, and judging from the fact that when Kamek's announcing Bowser, one of the Koopa Troopas is extremely fidgety, can't stand still, and the one next to him looks bored AF, I'm hopeful they keep that same comedic relief in the movie. So, out from the ship comes King Bowser himself. Now, Bowser's design has stayed pretty dang consistent throughout the years, and it looks like the movie version doesn't stray from that. Okay, back to the trailer.
Open the gates!
He demands the Ice Kingdom's gates be opened, and when they do, the mist clears and we see...
penguins.
And King Penguin. Penguin King, as the IMDb credits call him. I was curious to see if this was a kingdom we had seen before in the games, to maybe explain why Bowser was fighting them in particular. Looking at the kingdom itself, it mainly consists of these dome-top towers that appear to be made out of compact ice due to the way they crumble when hit. They all seem to have a blinding blue glowing light emitting from them and not much else, which doesn't seem like a super nice place to live. When you ask someone which room they want, and they're like, oh god, I guess I'll take this bright ass one over here. Now, that dome shape has been seen in the background of a few ice levels in past games, but the Aurora Borealis that surrounds them points me towards the frosted glacier world in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. That background also captures that same desolate wasteland that this kingdom seems to be in. And they got penguins. This particular kingdom isn't seen in any of the games though, and Penguin King is definitely a new character brought to life by Kari Payton, who you might recognize as the voice of Cyborg from Teen Titans Go. Since these penguins have a king, they clearly aren't under the direct rule of Princess Peach, but there's something that might suggest that there's some relation there. In the trailer, we see two different types of flags on top of the towers, and no matter how much I zoom in and mess with the colors, I cannot for the life of me tell what the symbols are supposed to be. Maybe a mushroom? Get so fuzzy! But what's interesting is the two flags we see match the colors of the flags of Princess Peach's castle in some of the games. Now, in some of the games they're solid red, and in others they're white with a pinkish red outline. Both are swallowtail terrestrial flags, meaning it forks into 2 points, which you hardly ever see in Mario games. So although these little chili dudes probably have their own thing going on, they could potentially have some sort of allegiance or relationship with the Mushroom Kingdom. Now, as adorable as these little guys are, their black leather harnesses, battle scars, and immediate call to attack suggest the penguins are no strangers to violence. Also, me when no one wants to split the mozzarella sticks with me. Let's move on.
Do you yield? I do not. Finally found it. Now who's gonna stop me?
Unfortunately, these savage cuties hurling snowballs does absolutely nothing to hurt Bowser, aside from a trebuchet snowball absolutely obliterating a red Koopa it hits. A sentence I never thought I'd say. Undeterred, Penguin King asks if Bowser yields, Bowser's like nah, and Kamek uses his powers to toss him aside before Bowser unleashes a devastating fire blast that destroys, at the very least, the front of the palace walls and the frontmost tower. In the next shot, we see Bowser standing over a glowing power star exclaiming, "I finally found it! Now who's gonna stop me?" I know. I should have voiced Bowser. Thank you.
You!
Now, there are 3 types of power stars this could be. The Grand Star, which Bowser uses in Super Mario Galaxy to turn into the much more powerful Giant Bowser, a type of star that just makes the user temporarily invincible, and the types of stars you acquire when beating levels or worlds that you have to collect to beat the game. Since it doesn't look like the Grand Star and it has more weight to it than a temporary invincibility star, I think it's the 3rd option. And when Bowser says, "I finally found it," he means he found the last star in the collection of stars that he needs to gain more powers. This one makes sense because it explains why this little penguin kingdom would have such a valuable item in their possession, and would imply that Bowser's been going from kingdom to kingdom, destroying lands and taking their stars. Very Thanos of him. Which might also explain the severity of his fire blast that he used on this kingdom. Bowser's always had a powerful fire blast, but the scope of this one might imply that he's already stronger with the other power stars in his possession. Like me with boots. The more boots I own, the stronger I am. Let's keep going. And then cue our lovable hero, who's blasted screaming out of a pipe into a land full of mushrooms where he ungracefully eats it. By the way, the archway the pipe stems from is made of red brick, which I think is a cute nod at the importance of red bricks in the Mario games. The red bricks not being as cartoony as we're used to on this building might even demonstrate a merging of the world Mario's coming from and the one he's entering. More on that in a bit. But archways also commonly represent a gateway, a sort of passage or transition into new opportunity. So here we have an everyman who's forcefully thrust past a threshold via pipe into a new and foreign land where he must embrace new situations in order to grow and become the hero he's destined to be. First he eats it. His off-brand Timberlands are looking great though. Let's move on.
What is this place?
Oh, I'm sorry. That one's perfectly fine.
Then a slowed down mystical version of the music that was in the first level of the 1985 NES Super Mario Bros. Plays as Mario looks around at his surroundings in awe. That's right, we're getting Mario's introduction to the Mushroom Kingdom in this one, which is wild. My reasoning for them setting it in this place in the timeline is that it allows the non-gaming viewers to absorb exposition, with Mario acting as the audience surrogate. This movie is clearly trying to appeal to the biggest audience possible, and having everything explained out loud prevents Grandpa from asking why that half-naked mushroom is following that mustachioed man around. And yes, I saw they gave Toad pants instead of a diaper, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Cowards. So one of the biggest questions I have with this being Mario's first introduction to the Mushroom Kingdom is, where is he coming from? They could go in so many directions with this. Could he be coming from New Donk City? After all, the Mario Odyssey universe is canon in this. I'll prove that in a second. Could he be coming from New York, where Mario was believed to have hailed for a time? Chris Pratt does do a little tinge of a New York accent. Could they be creating another cartoonish human world just for this movie? Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong are in this movie according to IMDb. Could he have been staying with them? They could really go in any direction with it. So we finally get to hear the Chris Pratt voice we've all been waiting on pins and needles for. And to me, he kind of sounds like an energetic Gigi from Kiki's Delivery Service. No? Just me?
Kiki, look, it's me!
So Mario reaches for a blue mushroom and we get to hear a voice we've been dying to hear number 2, Keegan-Michael Kea's Toad, who drops the shrillness that characteristically comes with Toad's voice, but keeps the slight gargle on exclamations. I do think these are probably good adjustments for a movie where you're probably going to hear Toad talk a lot. There's a reason we only hear that gratingly lovable voice in short bursts in the games. But I will say, if we don't get at least one, wah-ha! I'm going to riot. So Toad warns Mario not to touch the blue mushroom or he'll die before correcting himself. This is almost certainly a play on the fact that there are poison mushrooms in the games that are purple, which is why he would mistake a blue mushroom for one. Fun fact though, blue mushrooms in the games are mini mushrooms, so he did save Mario from getting real tiny. Toad is also holding a walking stick and wearing a backpack full of gear that is perfectly suited for an adventure. He's got a lantern, some rope, a blanket, a mug, a frying pan, and even some decorative pins. Zoom in on those pins and you'll see that one is of Princess Peach's castle and the other 2 are the upside-down pyramid in Toast Arena and the dinosaur from Cascade Kingdom, both from Mario Odyssey. Told you I'd prove it was canon. Now, we've seen a Toad exploring with a backpack in Mario games before, named Captain Toad, but the backpack did look a little different, and this Toad doesn't don the same attire, so we'll just have to wait and see if this could potentially be the future Captain Toad. Anyway, back to the trailer.
Come on, Mario!
Mushroom Kingdom, here we come!
Next, we see Toad leading the way towards the kingdom. In the great expanse between where they are and the castle, there's a lot going on. We see several dome-like rock formations, which is referencing the bizarre capsule-shaped hills seen in the background of some Mario games. What are those, by the way? Why have we always just accepted them so easily? Some of them have eyes! The hills have eyes. You also see lots of little splotches of color along the long and winding road that give the vibe of the different lands that Mario goes through on his road to victory throughout the games. Of course, front and center is Princess Peach's castle, which poses it as the destination of their journey. And as we get a little closer to the castle, the density of the population seems to grow as it becomes difficult to tell what are mushrooms and what are mushroom houses or buildings. There does seem to be a village of sorts underneath the castle though, which is almost certainly Toad Town, the capital city of the Mushroom Kingdom. Now there's an interesting difference between the trailer and the poster for this movie, and that is that in the poster there are a lot more floating islands and or planets in the sky that seem to come straight out of Super Mario Galaxy. The trailer version has a few sparse floating islands, but nothing demonstrating the anti-gravity physics that the poster displays. However, like the poster, there is a series of blocky vertical cliffs that lead up to the castle, which to me are very reminiscent of the side-scrolling portions of Super Mario Galaxy 2 where you need to scale large vertical cliff sides. It'll be interesting to see how the alternate planets that accompany the Mario Galaxy universe being canon will play into everything. Okay, back to the trailer. Then we're hit with the title, which uses the same logo design that Super Mario has used since 2011 when Super Mario 3D Land was released. An interesting note though is that it has a white outline like the Super Mario Galaxy logo does, as opposed to the black outline of the usual logo. And there's a gleaming sparkle on the tip of the R, and the Galaxy logo is also known for having sparkles on the edges of some of its letters. I don't know if it means anything, but it's neat. This title screen also reminds us that the movie is called the Super Mario Bros. For a reason. Because last but not least, we have a scene with Luigi in the end where he's being chased through some dark and spooky woods by a horde of dry bones. He frantically makes his way across a moat of lava towards a castle, which is actually pretty busted up when you look at it. But out of the top stands an unbeaten Bowser flag. This castle looks a lot like the classic fortresses from Super Mario World. Then he barricades himself inside by pushing against the door. Some people have speculated that this is a mansion as a reference to the game Luigi's Mansion, but the exterior, the giant wooden bar lock, and the rubble we see at his feet tells me this is probably an abandoned castle or fortress. But fortresses and castles in Super Mario World still had plenty of booze. Ghosts, not liquor. So I'm sure Luigi's still bound to have a paranormal encounter or two. I can't wait to see more of what this movie has in store, and I know Jack Black said in an interview that we'd be surprised to see that Bowser has a musical side, so I'm rooting for a musical number with a tap break in his white coattails for the next trailer. And let us know in the comments if you want to see more videos on Mario, or gaming, or video games. Just let us know. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at @It'sAnnaVanston and follow and subscribe to New Rockstars at New Rockstars for more breakdowns of everything you love. Wah-ha! just want to I'm melting.